How's it going, folks? So I am back today. It is the night. It is the night before the LCS. So it is a Wednesday night. It's about midnight. Uh, so yeah, I just wanted to go ahead since the European season starts tomorrow, and of course the North American season starts on Saturday. I can go ahead and do a quick, breakdown of the teams and sort of how I think they're going to finish and how I feel about each team. Just a quick little overview, and I thought as well I might as well throw in some of my thoughts, I guess, from the LCK, which is the OGN, the Korean League. If you don't know, the name is now the League of Legends Champions Korea, so it's the LCK. Or the LPL. So I'm going to or the LPL is the Chinese League. So I'm going to go ahead and give my thoughts on both of those since they've been running for a couple of weeks. If you guys haven't watched any of the games or you don't care, you can go ahead and skip through to the North American and the European scenes. But I'll go ahead really quick and sort of just jump into it. So yeah, we'll talk about Korea first. So we'll go with Korea. Last night we had a really great series with CJ Entis versus KT Rolster. Of course, it really did show that KT Rolster is sort of at the bottom of the barrel here. They haven't won any games. CJ Entis, of course, moves on to 3-0, which is wonderful. It's amazing for them to be that high. But I think there's a definite disparity between like the top four and the bottom four teams in Korea. So I think like GE Tigers, SK Telecom, CJ Entis, of course, and Jin are by far the top four teams. And I think Incredible Miracle's kind of on that teeter-totter level of maybe they can be good, maybe they can't, or maybe they're going to go ahead and continue doing what they're doing, or maybe they're not. And I think Najin, KT, and Samsung are definitely at the very, very bottom. Like they're just playing very, very badly. I don't see them really making too many improvements. Maybe they'll improve over the course of the season, but I don't see them overtaking any of the top four teams. Maybe Incredible Miracle can shift either way into that top area, or they're just going to fall back down. I think GE Tigers is probably performing the best just out of the games I've seen. I've watched I think all but one series of theirs. I think they've been playing incredible and they definitely are the Incredible Miracle, seeing how they didn't look very well in the qualifiers, but they've come out with some vengeance here, and they have some pretty snazzy looking uniforms too, if I could do say so myself. SKT I think is really good. I think they're a really solid team. I don't understand why they keep switching EasyHoon and Faker out. It's really strange to me. I think they're maybe just toying around with the roster, but I don't quite understand that. I know they're both really great mid laners, but you really can't take Faker out. And when they do have Faker in there, they do go ahead and tend to first pick or like blind pick his mid laner, which I don't like at all. You're sort of just playing into the thing of like, oh, we have Faker, we can do whatever we want. I mean, he doesn't lose too bad. I mean, he doesn't lose, but I mean, he probably doesn't have the best game as he could if he's not protected like that. And I think they do have a stable enough roster where they can go ahead and do that. But who knows if we're gonna go ahead and if they're gonna keep that strategy going, or if they're gonna go ahead and just leave Faker in there. It's hard to tell. CJ Entis I think is probably the biggest surprise, and probably in my estimation the most overperforming team. I mean, they did beat SK Telecom pretty handily. Mad Life's having a resurgence. Ambition's playing really well in the jungle. Space has had like some kind of a revolution. Shy's playing really well. I mean, their entire roster is just playing really, really well. I really want to see them continue. They're past like a lot of the difficult part of their schedule, which is really cool. So we'll maybe get to see them sort of play a little bit more and go from there. And yeah, and then like Jin Air of course is playing really well too. They've only played 2 matches. The one they're 1-1. The one that they lost is actually pretty solid as well. So I don't really see too much over for them. And then we get into the bottom rosters that Incredible Miracle. Okay, I'm not entirely sure what they're going on with them. Najin's just not really playing well. KT Rolster has the talent. They have a really solid talent base. They have Sunday. Their overall top to bottom, their roster is really solid. It's just they're not playing really well. I don't really know what to say there. Samsung as well. Samsung just does not have the experience that they need. I mean, they're really hurting after losing their entire rosters from last season. So it's something to look out for. Now, probably the more interesting of the four of the regions here is the Chinese region because that's where we saw the big infuse of talent coming in. I definitely think OMG is looking super strong with Uzi on that roster. They were playing with Luo the first week. Uh, he's a solid support. I mean, I'd rather see Cloud in there, but from what I've heard, Loveling doesn't like to play with Cloud, or he like that's the reason why they keep benching Cloud, which is really weird. So I mean, I'm waiting to see if they go ahead and pick up a better support, or they just put Cloud in there, or or they keep Luo in there. I think Luo is really the one that's the only weak spot in that team that you can really pick out. I mean, their roster is just unbelievable. Uh, but I'm very surprised at what they've been able to do throughout the season so far. Uh, I mean, there's really nothing else to really bring up. I mean, we didn't get to see Name from Star Royal Club. They had a sub in there. I think HYY was the sub in there. He played relatively well. But I really want to see what they look like with Name before making any judgments on them. VC, they were sort of a very heavy, not favorite, but they were supposed to be a really good team. They played. They're the ones that have Dandy and Mata and Vasily. They're 0-2. Lost to OMG and I can't remember who else, but I mean they just didn't really look too strong there. LGD Gaming is also 2-0. They're the ones that have Acorn and Flame, and they're rotating them in and out. I mean, it's interesting with them just because they do have Acorn and Flame as well as Imp. So Imp's kind of been the one that's at the bottom lane, just sort of the consistent Korean that's in there, and then they've been flexing in Acorn and Flame. I personally think Flame's the better top laner. I think Acorn kind of, as good a top laner as he is, I think he kind of overperformed on in Samsung just because of the amount of talent on that roster. But he did play really well. I just think that if you're gonna go in for consistency, kind of like the Easy Hoon Faker thing, eventually you're gonna have to put Flame in there and just let him go. I think that's gonna be your most solid option there. I think honestly the Koreans that are playing the best are the Invictus ones. So those are the ones that's the team that has Kakao, Rookie, and Save. And so Save really hasn't played. They're really starting Rookie and Kakao, and both of those guys are just playing out of their minds, which is really cool to kind of see them explode. And they really do have the talent base, and I think those are probably even over the Samsungs, because the Samsungs really never, you couldn't definitively say like, yeah, these guys are world class just because they played with each other, so it's kind of hard to judge. Where Kakao, Rookie, they really didn't have the amount of talent that overall talent that the Samsung group had, so you can really say that they were individually really skilled. I think the biggest surprise is that Master 3 is the team that has Looper and Dandy or Dade. Looper's playing okay. He's not doing too bad, but they were doing some weird stuff with like Annie Top, if I remember. That was they were the team that did Annie Top with Looper, which is really strange. But yeah, Master 3 Dade looks like he's checked out, man. Dade looks like he's just going, yeah, cool, check cleared from China. I'm gonna go ahead and sit here and play Hearthstone or something like that. Like, he just doesn't look like he's into it. He's not playing well at all. It's very surprising, and I'm looking to see if he's just not comfortable in China and maybe he's having trouble with communication or anything like that. But certainly just not up to the level that we're used to seeing Dade play at. So a little disappointing there, but there's still a long season. We're only 1 week in, so we'll see what happens there. So let's go ahead and get into the LCS, which happens tomorrow. Super exciting. So I still think Elements, which was Alliance, I still think they're the top team to beat in the region. I don't think that that's any real question. Adding Reckless onto the roster is certainly, in my opinion, a plus. I think that he fits their team a little bit better than Tabs and gives them more of an aggressive option. I think I talked about this in the IAM San Jose video that I did. I just think that he can be the aggressor when the rest of his team is sort of passive kind of guys. So I think that that's really going to help out. I like Gambit's roster. From what I saw at IEM Katowice, I like their roster. The series they played against CLG was really impressive, and I was pretty proud of what they were able to do. Although I don't think they're the second place team, I think it's definitely Elements, and then probably I want to say SK, because I like Forgiven. I like what he adds to that team, and I think that overall with their full roster, I think Forgiven and everything else that's going to add to that roster is going to be great moving forward. With Roccat, I think is next. I think Roccat has Yankos is like the strongest jungler in the EU. Moving overpower to top lane, he's going to take a while to learn that, but I mean, I think he's smart enough of a guy to go ahead and handle that situation. I think Nuke Duck being in there is going to be a real strong addition, and I wouldn't be surprised if he started rolling through a lot of the mid laners in EU. I mean, EU's strength has always been their mid lane, and I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think there's some weak mid laners in EU right now that he can take advantage of. So I think those are definitely like the top three, clear-cut top three teams. I think it's SK, Roccat, and Elements. Behind them, I would say Copenhagen Wolves, Gambit, and Unicorns of Love are the next three. I think Copenhagen Unicorns of Love, of course, showed what they had at IM San Jose. I think they're just a fun team to watch. I think they're really kind of innovative and kind of fun to watch. Kikis is, of course, pulling out with some weird stuff in the jungle. I think Power of Evil is really kind of fun. Visit Chachi, of course. Their bottom lane is a little strange to me. Vardegs and forgot the support's name, but I mean, their bot lane I don't think is necessarily that strong. But I think Power of Evil, Vizichachi, and Kikis are all really, really talented, and they're going to go far there. And who knows? They can always go ahead and prove me wrong. I think Copenhagen Wolves, of course, most of their roster stayed. I think they added Soren and Soren Freeze, I think, as well. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure. But they haven't really made too many changes. I don't really see them moving from the middle of the pack. So yeah, I think they fall in kind of that third spot. And then I think the bottom three, of course, are Giants, H2K, and Meet Your Makers. I think those three rosters aren't necessarily super strong. I mean, Super Hot Crew, or I guess they're not Super Hot Crew. They're Meet Your Makers. But yeah, I don't think they're necessarily crazy strong. And then H2K and Giants, I haven't seen enough of to make a definitive statement. I mean, they have H2K has Ryu and Voidal, who I know, and Lolux I've seen a little bit of in some pro games, but I just don't know enough about them or Giants to really make a decision on them. And from what I've seen of them, it's just not very impressive. So I am gonna go ahead and put them on the bottom level of there. So I'm gonna just go ahead and say Elements. I have Elements taking the split. I have SK and Roccat right behind them, maybe fighting for the second spot, maybe even being able to take Elements depending on how the synergies work out. Then I have Gambit, Unicorns of Love, and Copenhagen Wolves in that order, sort of maybe fighting in for a playoff spot, maybe into that third spot. And then I have Giants, Meet Your Makers, and H2K fighting to not get relegated automatically. So that's how I feel about the North American region, or the EU side of it. The NALCS gets a little bit interesting. So Cloud9, of course, is already at the top. They made no changes. They made absolutely no changes. So they, of course, stay at the top. I still think they're super strong. TSM I put right up there as well. TSM, I think there is a drop-off with TSM. I think Santorin, I think he's going to be more of a consistent jungler than Amazing. I think Amazing was very inconsistent and not extremely productive in America. But I think that Amazing is just a better technical overall jungler. Like, even Amazing's bad games are probably going to be better than Santorin's average games. So, you know, and I don't see him making that big of an impact. And maybe he really doesn't, because of the way those solo lanes work and the way that they just sort of do win lane, win game kind of a team. But I mean, it all depends on Dyrus and Bjergsen. I don't really see Wild Turtle's inconsistencies are really having an issue. And Lustboy is as good as Lustboy is. I don't think that he can go ahead and make up for Wild Turtle's inconsistencies. And we'll have to see if Bjergsen becomes a better shot caller and makes some better calls for TSM as well. And to see if they adjust a little bit better as well. That's a problem that they had in IEM San Jose. well, they just didn't really know how to adjust to the weird things that Unicorns of Love was going ahead and doing. So we'll see what happens there. Team Liquid, so former Curse, former team, or now Team Liquid. I think Team Liquid is extremely strong. I'm a little biased because I'm a little close to the situation, so I know sort of internally what's happening, at least more than I do with the other teams. So I mean, I don't see too many communication issues going on with Piglet or Phoenix. I think they're both extremely strong. I think they are extremely committed to making it work and to working with the team and becoming a strong team here in America. I think Quaz is a very talented, solid top laner. I think Dominate had a better split, or was better towards the end of the season last year. I think Xpecial working with Piglet is honestly up there with Double Lift Aphromoo in terms of just power in the lane. I mean, maybe they won't be as strong team fight wise, or maybe they'll be stronger team fight wise than Double Lift or Afro. But I mean, I think Double Lift and Afro are still stronger in lane. But I think overall, in an overall team game, I think that Team Liquid does have the stronger bot lane there, and that's really saying something considering that Double Lift and Afro have been like kind of the gold standard of bot lanes for the past couple splits now. I think those are definitely the top three teams. I mean, honestly, I think it's between Cloud9 and Team Liquid. I think those are the top two, in my opinion. And I think TSM drops sort of into that second tier, just because of that jungle, and because of the jungle is a lot more important in terms of setting up objectives and for dragons and things like that. I think that's a little more important this season, at least from what I've seen from the Chinese play and the Korean play and everything like that with the dragon stacks and all that stuff. But moving on, so I'm putting Cloud9 and Team Liquid up in the top tier. So then the next tier I have TSM. I have CLG in there as well. I think Smithy. I think a lot of people are counting Smithy out. I think he's a solid jungler. Even though he may be a little rusty or maybe a little older, I think that he's a very smart jungler and a very is going to be able to help them out with a lot more of the stability issues that they had last season. Maybe be able to sort of lessen the mental mistakes there. I think having that veteran presence really helps. I think Zion. I'm normally not too high on Zion. I think Zion is a little too solo focused for me. I think the kind of the thing of like he'd rather take Ignite in lane than TP for his team, kind of a thing. It just depends. I think that he is very solo focused, but I think that he has grown quite a bit, and you kind of saw that with Dig. So I mean, I think he'll be fine. And again, Double Lift and Aphromoo, and if Link can step up just a little bit, I think Double Lift and Aphromoo are such good bot lane. I think that they'll be fine as a team. I think they'll be consistently solid. I don't know if they'll be a great team, but I think they'll be solid. So then moving on from there, I think I'm not entirely sure if I would go ahead and put EG in there yet. I think EG is like teetering on that second tier. I just like their roster. I like Pobelter. I like Altec. And then, of course, they have Helios still. And then Avalon and Imagine are two other Koreans that are coming in as well. I think they're very strong. And I wouldn't be surprised if they made a run towards, like a push towards a playoff spot. So I would go ahead and so far we have Cloud9 and Team Liquid at the top. That second tier we have CLG and TSM, and then we have Winter Fox, which is EG, sort of in that middle ground between the second and third place tiers. And then that third tier, I'll go ahead and put Gravity and Impulse. I think Gravity and Impulse are really kind of the unknowns here. I like what Impulse has done in terms of putting a team around Xiao Zhao. I think Impact's still a really solid top laner. I think he kind of showed that during the preseason of Korea before he left. Rush, I've seen some solo queue games and he looks really strong. And then Apollo and Adrian, I think that personally I like WizFusion. I think WizFusion is a strong AD carry, and I think that Coast wasn't the right situation for him. I think a lot of people didn't give enough credit for what he did there. And then Gravity, of course, they have Cop, they have Cop, they have Bunny Fufu, they have Saint Vicious, Haunters, and Keen. I think that's a lot of experience there and a lot of just years and years of experience. I think they're a really smart team. I don't think they're necessarily the most mechanically sound team, so they're not going to be able to outplay the top teams. But I think they are going to be able to sort of take advantage of the mental mistakes that they make and really capitalize on that moving forward. So I think that's really cool for them to be in there. I think Dignitas. I would put Dignitas in this tier as well, in this third tier. Like I said, though, I have no idea what's going on with their team. It all depends on if Shifter basically has a solo carry. I don't like KidLiquid as a jungler, or I don't like KidLiquid as a support player. I don't necessarily think that Crumbs is an unbelievably strong jungler, and I'm not entirely sure about the two Koreans they brought in. But I mean, I think it's up to Shifter to go ahead and solo carry that game. And then I'll go ahead and actually, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say this. I'm actually gonna put Team Coast ahead of Team 8, and of course my team played against Team Coast, so it's a team that I've done quite a bit of research about. Honestly, I at first didn't necessarily think they were that strong, but the more I really saw them play and the more I really looked at them, they did look pretty strong. I think Jesus and Impaler coming over from Europe are actually a lot stronger than people are giving them credit for. I think Impaler is an extremely smart jungler and knows when to be aggressive, when not to. Mash and Sheep are not the strongest lane in the bot lane, but I do think they play smart, and I think they have enough mechanics to go ahead and stay alive against some of the top tier bot lanes. And so I think it's really up to the solo lanes here to go ahead and make something happen. But I think they're able to do that. And so it's just a matter of whether or not they can transition the Challenger success they had to anything else. And then I think Team 8 is in the discussion as well. I like Calatrolls, but I don't really see the rest of their roster doing anything too special. And yeah, I mean, their roster has been around forever. I mean, I remember playing against them or Call Gaming playing against them in Challenger scene tournaments and things like that. I just don't necessarily see them as that solid or strong of a team overall. I think Calatrolls is definitely at a high LCS level. I just don't think the rest of the team is. So kind of rounding that off, I have Cloud9 and Team Liquid in that top tier spot. I have CLG and TSM in that second tier spot. I have Winter Fox, which is the former EG, in that sort of middle ground between second and third, and then all in that third tier in the order of I have Impulse, Gravity, Coast, Dignitas, and Team 8. I think there's definitely a discrepancy, like right at Winter Fox, up and below. I think there's a huge gap. I think Winter Fox is like the grubby line of Winter Fox is the grubby line of the North American LCS. So if anyone doesn't get that reference, the reference is that there was a TL article that was written a while ago about an MLG that was coming up or something like that. And there's a StarCraft 2 player, a former Warcraft 3 like legendary player called Grubby. And so the Grubby line is this: if you can beat top tier Koreans, because Grubby could beat top tier Koreans, but he wasn't that great of a player. He could like barely beat the top tier Koreans. So the idea was that if you were like, there's a clear line of like here's where you're good enough to beat Koreans, and then here's where you're not, right? So this is the Grubby line. So the grubby line of like being a top tier team and being a low tier team is Winter Fox. Like if you're better than Winter Fox, then you're a top tier team. If you can't beat Winter Fox, then I think you're a bottom tier team. That's just my opinion of like how it breaks down. So yeah, that's sort of my overall breakdown of the two scenes like those two scenes, and sort of a little bit of recap on the Korean and Chinese league so far, from what I've seen. So guys, that's gonna be it for now. I've been talking for quite a while. Pretty sure you're tired of it now, and I'm not sure anyone really watched the entire thing. But please go ahead, like, subscribe, favorite. Let me know in the comments of what you want to see, what you want to see more of. I did go ahead and release the Industry Mind Games kind of mini series that I'm doing on my channel as well. So I hope you guys really enjoy that, and I hope I can go ahead and get some more of those out for you guys. But thank you for watching, and have a very good night.